Hollywood absolutely loves taking old classics, giving them some flashy new paint and trying to sell them again, usually whether we asked for them or not. Sure, once in a while a remake justifies itself, like The Departed or It, but way too often they're just lazy cash grabs nobody wanted, nobody asked for, and people ignore completely. These next movies are perfect examples, remakes that bombed at the box office because they either completely misunderstood what made the originals good or honestly just never needed to exist at all. The original Oldboy is legendary, dark and twisted Korean revenge classic. Hollywood saw it and figured, hey, let's remake this. Spike Lee directed, Josh Brolin starred as Joe, a guy mysteriously locked in a room for 20 years, then randomly released. He goes on a revenge mission, uncovering dark secrets along the way. But Lee's version completely missed what made the original so powerful. The remake feels watered down, generic, and just never comes close to that original insanity. Plus, the studio butchered Spike Lee's original cut. He had an hour chopped off. Even the famous single-shot fight got edited. Lee himself even publicly said this was the worst filmmaking experience he'd ever had. That is not the film Josh Brolin and I made. That didn't make it to the theaters. The distributor film district basically gave up. They barely marketed it, kept shuffling release dates, and then dumped it into only around 500 theaters against big movies like Frozen. Predictably, it tanked completely. Didn't even crack $1 million opening weekend, ended up making just $5 million total. Warner Brothers spent 7 years just trying to develop this one. At one point, the Wachowskis and Robert Rodriguez were involved, but eventually Millennium Films got it and handed it to Marcus Nispel, a director mostly famous for his crazy on-set demands. Jason Momoa took over as Conan, and honestly, he had the look and physical presence. But the script was weak, the dialogue was generic, and the CGI took away all the gritty practical effects fans loved about the original. Lionsgate spent $25 million just to distribute this thing, hoping it'd launch a new franchise. Instead, it landed in late summer, facing movies like Spy Kids and Fright Night, and critics tore it apart. Opening weekend was barely $10 million, half what the studio wanted, and it quickly faded away, losing nearly $30 million in total. Momoa later called it a great filming experience, but said the studio totally ruined the final cut. It was taken over and turned into a big pile of shit. Original Point Break was an absolute classic. Patrick Swayze, Keanu Reeves, iconic stunts, and genuine chemistry. Remake was a generic action movie nobody asked for, turning surfing bank robbers into globe-trotting eco-terrorists doing wingsuit stunts and snowboarding chases. It tried to be bigger and flashier, and ended up way emptier. Warner Brothers pushed its release all over the place. At first, it even opened in China ahead of the US to avoid Star Wars. Christmas weekend stateside had 5 new wide releases. Point Break did the absolute worst of them all. Overseas, China brought in decent money, and Russia was its second biggest market. If Russia's your number 2, you've clearly got issues. After it bombed, producers openly admitted they learned their lesson. Gotta respect that at least. I never want to be involved in a remake again. We were pure of heart, but we offended a lot of people. Back in 1984, Red Dawn was about teens fighting off Soviet invaders. Kind of made sense in Cold War America. The remake tried the same idea, but this time with North Koreans invading Spokane, Washington after MGM digitally replaced the original Chinese villains in post-production to not offend China. Right from the start, this felt completely pointless, completely unnecessary, and people noticed, of course. Production happened right as MGM went bankrupt, causing major delays. Chris Hemsworth shot this before Thor, but by the time this finally came out, even his star power didn't help. Opening weekend landed at number 7 at the box office, buried under movies like Twilight and Life of Pi. It couldn't even make back its modest $54 million budget. Critics hated it, called it silly, boring, generic, and without Cold War paranoia to back it up, the whole thing just looked dumb. MGM clearly just wanted to milk a random title from their vault, and it backfired badly. Original Wicker Man from 1973 was a creepy folk horror masterpiece. Hollywood remake with Nicolas Cage got ridiculous, campy, and unintentionally hilarious. Cage plays a cop investigating a girl's disappearance on a bizarre island, discovering pagan rituals and matriarchal cults. Even before release, the original director Robin Hardy and star Christopher Lee trashed the idea of remaking it. Where the first was psychological and disturbing, the remake was clumsy jump scares, awkward dialogue, and Cage going completely over the top. Now it's mostly remembered as one of the worst horror remakes ever made. Basically proof that some classics should just never be touched again. Back in 1998, Universal got this bright idea. Remake Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, shot for shot in color. Literally just remake it exactly the same way, scene by scene, with almost zero creative changes. Same story, same dialogue, with Vince Vaughn replacing Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates. When Universal announced this, the reaction was basically, why? Even critics were like, what's the point? So the studio panicked, targeted younger audiences. Heavy promo on MTV, non-stop marketing, trying to hype it up as a big event for teens. Most adults thought it was stupid, but Universal hoped younger viewers wouldn't care about the original and might give it a shot. And sure, younger crowds showed up, about 75% under 25, but they hated it too. Gave it a lousy C- cinema score. Total disappointment. Box office ended at about 37 million worldwide on a 25 million budget, definitely not good enough. Basically just a weird, pointless, and totally soulless version of Hitchcock's masterpiece. Nobody wanted it then, nobody wants it now. Hollywood spent nearly 2 decades trying and failing to remake The Crow, a cult 1994 goth revenge movie. They finally did it in 2024. Directed by Rupert Sanders, starring Bill Skarsgård as a murdered musician resurrected for revenge. But the big problem is nobody asked for this movie. Literally nobody. The original Crow was legendary mainly because of Brandon Lee's performance and the tragic circumstances of his death on set. Trying to redo that was never going to work. Fans hated it. Original director Alex Proyas refused to even watch it, called it a cynical cash grab. Skarsgård himself distanced from it later, even admitted the filmmakers changed the ending just to set up a potential sequel, even though he didn't want that at all. It cost $50 million and made less than half of that back. In 2016, MGM decided to remake Ben-Hur, the epic Charlton Heston classic that literally everyone knows. Studios had money to burn, especially MGM after securing a huge loan to reboot their movie slate. So they dumped $100 million into this thing and figured people still love biblical epics, right? Paramount marketed the hell out of it, ads everywhere during the Rio Olympics, partnering with religious groups, huge campaign. The producers, Mark Burnett and Roma Downey, Hollywood's self-proclaimed noisiest Christians, were so confident they declared it would be the biggest movie of the year. Not quite. Opening weekend was a disaster. Barely $11 million, finished way below even the most pessimistic estimates. It ended up not even getting its production budget back. In 2017, Sony decided to reboot Flatliners, the 1990 thriller about medical students who kill themselves temporarily to explore the afterlife. The original wasn't exactly perfect, but it had cool ideas, creepy atmosphere, plus a great cast. Julia Roberts, Kevin Bacon, Kiefer Sutherland. The remake completely missed the point of the original. Instead of something genuinely creepy and tense, this new version was watered down, totally forgettable, no fresh ideas at all. Reviews destroyed it, literally got 4% on Rotten Tomatoes. People just didn't care. Why see a dull remake when you could watch the superior original anytime? Box office was mediocre at best, barely $45 million on a $19 million budget. Sure, technically made some money back, but nowhere near enough to justify its existence. In 2019, MGM tried gender-swapping the classic con artist comedy Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson replaced Michael Caine and Steve Martin, playing 2 scammers who team up to fleece rich guys on the French Riviera. Thing is, the original was clever, sharp, and hilarious. Great writing, Perfect chemistry between Kane and Martin. This remake? Super lazy script, predictable gags, zero chemistry between the leads. Reviews absolutely tore it apart. 13% on Rotten Tomatoes called it unfunny and regressive remake, just plain dumb. Empire magazine even called it an embarrassment to the heist genre, an insult to comedy, a disgrace to feminism.